Hi, I'm Ben. Welcome to the second episode of Brain Playground. In this episode, I'm going to talk about Premake and Visual Studios. So, Premake is a tool used to generate project files for a third-party development environment. For example, I will be using Visual Studio 2022 for my projects, so I'll be using Premake to generate solution and project files, as well as to set up select features for Visual Studios. An important note, Premake is not CMake. Premake does not compile source code into functional programs or libraries. Instead, Premake basically sets up all of the project files. You could actually use Premake to set up the files to run CMake to build your project, but Premake will not build your project itself. So let me go over to the Premake website. So here's the website where you can download Premake. I downloaded it and stored it in a folder on the C drive where I'll access it later. Okay, so up next I'll use Premake to generate Visual Studio files in order to build a simple Hello World style program. One of my goals is to kind of identify the bare minimum Premake necessary to create a Visual Studio solution and successfully run the program. Before we work on the Premake file, let's go through the folder that I've set up for this project. So the main folder is called My Second Program, and we're already inside of that folder. That's where the solution is going to live. So we don't have a Visual Studio solution yet. We're going to make one using our Premake file. But in this folder, we have another folder called My Second Program. That's where our source code is. So if I open that, there's our source code folder. I open that, and we have a single file called source.cpp. If I take that over to our notepad, we can see that it's just a very simple program. It includes IOStream, uses stdcout to print something to the console, and then return 0. And that's the whole program. Just close the code. So that's the code. The other things that we have in our folder are a generate projects file and a Premake file. So let's look at the generate projects file first. Okay, that one's just a simple 2-line program. So this is a batch file, and batch files basically use the Windows or DOS command line to execute some function. So in this case, we have the path and the function that we want to run, which is Premake. So I downloaded Premake and put it on directly in a folder on the C drive. So I've hard coded my path here to Premake so that it'll run from here. And I'm indicating that we're going to use Visual Studios 2022. That's what this means. So that's gonna run Premake for us. So all we have to do is double click on this generate projects file. Let me close that for now, and then let's look at our Premake file. So right now, all I have in the Premake file is this workspace My Second Program. I'll talk about what that means in a second. But first, let's just see if this is enough to generate our project. So I'm just going to double click on generate projects. Do that. Okay, now let me just switch over to the... Nope, that was wrong. There we go, the Windows command. Let me move that for you guys. There we go. Okay, so this is what we get when we just run this right from the start, and we say, let me see, error, workspace does not contain any configurations. Alright, so we have to figure out how to add configurations. Okay, so I said that we wanted to go over what the workspace was, and we also now know that we have to go over what configurations are. So the workspace is basically for Visual Studios, that's the solution. The solution is kind of the wrapper that's going to hold everything in our project. And we can name that whatever we want. So if we look at Notepad, we can see that we have workspace, that's our solution, and we've named it my second program. So that's going to create a solution for us with that name. But this wasn't enough to generate the project, so we know we also need configuration. So what are configurations? Configurations are, they're basically the mode in which you're going to use the program. So debug and release are two that make sense. You can really set the configurations to anything you want. If you look at the Premake documentation, it says the names don't really matter, except they have to match whatever system you're using. So, for example, in Visual Studio, debug and release are two possible options that we can use for configuration. So let's go ahead and write that in now. Okay, so we'll go back here, and I'm just going to write in my configurations. Get us some curly braces, and then in here I'm just going to write debug, and I'll just leave it at that. That's the only configuration I'm going to put in there. So let's save that, and then I'm going to try running that from our generate projects file. And now let me just select that window so that you can see, let me see from the command line, there we go. So now you can see what was generated when we did that. Now it says error string attempt to index a nil value field. So something about this still isn't quite working. Not sure exactly what it is that didn't work yet, but we're going to try adding some more stuff to see if we can get this to work. Let's see, let's attempt to index a nil value, error string. So apparently it needs more information from us.